Hey, everybody. All right, welcome. This is Roman coming to you live from Pillar 6 College Planning, and welcome to our Financial Aid Wednesdays. I do this every single week where we take a topic that has to do with some part of our financial aid system in an effort to help you understand how the thing works, because as you probably well know by now, it's pretty complicated. It's easy to get lost. It's easy to make mistakes along the way without sometimes even knowing that you're making them, that end up costing you a lot of lost financial aid in the end. If you've heard my story, then you know that I've made almost all of those mistakes myself. And so, having learned that the hard way, my goal is to help you avoid making all of those mistakes so you can find all of the free money that you can to make college more affordable, avoid having to go into debt, avoid having to burden your kids with debt, and actually see them graduate college with a head start instead of having to work backwards and dig themselves out of a deep hole of student loans, which is what I had to do. So, today is December 8th. And in this episode, I want to talk about what to look for when looking for financial aid. And the reason I decided to have this conversation is because in the last week, since the last time I had this conversation with you all right here on Facebook, I got a number of calls, emails, and messages through Facebook of parents of high school seniors who are now applying for colleges, looking for money, going, "Oh my God, we need more money. How do we find more money? Like, help us." And I'm happy to help. And each one of those questions, of like, how do we get more money? I end up asking them a question first because I need to know the number one most important thing, like how to start the conversation is, what's your EFC? And almost every single time I get one of these. I don't know. Some people say, I don't know what an EFC is. Others say, well, how do I find out what my EFC is? And some folks say, I I didn't know I was supposed to get my EFC. Like, I don't know. And so that's like 9 times out of 10, if not nearly 9.9 times out of 10, is what I get. And unfortunately, that's one of the most important things that you all need to know about. Hopefully, way before you even like your kid starts applying to colleges, like that's something you need to know pretty much when your kids are just getting into high school, if you can, because that's going to set you up in the best way possible. But if your kids are already, I don't know, midway through high school, even if they're seniors applying for colleges, gosh, even if they're already in college, but they still have years to go and they'll be applying for financial aid in the future, what we're going to talk about in this live cast is going to help you. Because as soon as I get that, like, I don't know what my EFC is, I say, all right, before I can tell you where you can get the money to pay for college, I need to set the stage of how the financial aid system works, because there's money in a lot of places, but you need to know, based upon your EFC, where to get that money. So let's take a couple of steps back and let's set the stage for our financial aid system. So you're fortunate because you're going to now hear exactly what I tell people on that call. And the reason I say you're fortunate is because hopefully you've got more time than they do. Because when I tell them the things I'm about to tell you, they're usually in the 11th hour back against the wall, panicking how the heck they're going to pay for college and where the money is going to come from. And all of this is hitting them all at once. It's like a pile of bricks just falling down, and it's hard for them. I get it. And I feel bad. But at the same time, the moment I finish telling them what I'm about to tell you, every single time, without fail, they say, God, I wish I knew this earlier. Because had they known this earlier, they would have done things differently. They would have not only made their life easier, a lot more, or a lot less stressful, but they would have found more money to pay for college. And unfortunately, the one thing that we cannot do is turn time back. So The benefit for you is that you now have that gift of time because now you're going to get a glimpse into the future and you'll be able to then do things the right way. So you will be in a better position. So this is what happens. I ask them what their EFC is. They say, I don't know. And I say, all right, before I can tell you where to find money, here's what you need to know. Number one, we have three different financial aid systems in the US. Most people don't know this. And here they are. Number one, we have our need based financial aid system. Number two, we have a merit based financial aid system. This comes directly from colleges, has nothing to do with your finances, everything to do with your student, their academic or athletic or just personal accomplishments or just their personal profile of where they are. And then number three, we have a completely different system of outside private scholarships. This is money coming from organizations, from companies, from families, from foundations. And there's a lot of money in each one of these three financial aid systems. I mean, tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And technically, if you add them all up together, it's just a tremendous amount of money. It's certainly enough to help families that are struggling to afford college pay for college with ease. The problem is that each system requires that you do different things in order to get the money. And so if you don't know what those things are, it's easy to either make mistakes or not do some of the things that you're required to do to get the money. But it's also easy to spin your wheels, if you will, trying to get money out of the system, one of those three systems that you actually are not even eligible for. So, why waste time? Why waste effort? And why not get all the money that you can get? The only thing you need to know is which of those three systems you should be going after based upon where you qualify for and what are those right things. Everything starts, though, with your financial aid profile. It's the number one thing that you got to know. Now, before I go forward, I'm going to tell you how to do this. I do want to mention to everybody that's watching this live, or if you're watching the replay, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. Now, if you're watching a replay, put in your questions or give your comments, and I or a member of my team will come back and we'll answer them after the fact. But a lot of this stuff I try to make as simple as I can, but I recognize that depending on where you are in the process, this might seem as foreign to you as Sanskrit. So don't worry about that. Like, just ask the question. If I gloss over something that is commonsensical to me, it might not be commonsensical to you. And that's okay. In fact, a lot of families don't know some of these things. So don't worry about it. Ask the question, and I'll tell you what the answer is. So, what's your financial aid profile? Well, the thing that determines your financial aid profile is what I started this conversation with. It's your EFC. EFC is your expected family contribution, or basically what the government expects you to pay. So, how do you figure out your EFC? Well, most people will figure this out after they submit your financial aid forms. That's the FAFSA. So, if that form or the name of that form rings a bell, that means you've already done some research or maybe you've already done it. The FAFSA is the financial aid application that everybody has to complete in order to go on record to tell the government and colleges, hey, I'm looking for money. I need financial aid. And that form is going to ask you to fill out your finances, your income, the savings that you've got, and some personal things as well, like your age and how many family members you've got, because all of that goes into calculating your EFC, which is the amount that the government thinks you can pay out of your pocket with ease. So, I'll talk about when you should do this in a minute. How do you know what your financial aid profile is based upon your EFC? Well, here it is. Take notes because this is important. If your EFC is really low and you can comfortably afford whatever your EFC is, then you should put all of your efforts, all of your time, and all of your energy towards the need based financial aid system because that's where you're going to get the most amount of money based upon your financial aid profile. Now, some families will have a zero EFC because of their level of income, or they'll have a very low EFC number, like few $100s, or maybe 1,000 or a couple of $1,000s. And if you've got that money in the, out of your savings, or if you've got money out of your income, you're done. This is what you need to do. That's your financial aid path. That's your financial aid profile. Now, if you have a mid EFC, and you can't easily afford to come up with that money. The government might think you can, but our system is flawed. I've talked a lot about that, and you can watch some of those replays right here on Facebook or wherever you may be watching this. This is also streaming to Instagram, I think, and we will also put it up on YouTube. But a lot of families who are in the middle income um, you know place that they don't have the money that the government thinks they have to pay for college. So what you need to do then is focus your energies on going after need-based financial aid and merit-based financial aid. Now, as I mentioned earlier, merit financial aid comes directly from colleges. It's always in form of scholarships, grants, or tuition discounts. Quite honestly, it doesn't matter which one of those three things you get because they're all the same. It's free money. It's money that you get to like basically lower your out-of-pocket cost of college. It's not money you have to borrow or ever pay back. It's the best kind of money you can get. You just need to look for colleges that actually will give you the merit, or your student will get the merit aid. So, what happens if you are a high EFC family? What if your EFC is so high that the government doesn't think you need help? Unfortunately, this happens with a lot of higher middle income families because the financial aid formula is really skewed. It doesn't care about where you live. So, if you happen to be in one of these places around the country that has a very high cost of living area, or if you've got some special circumstances and you've got a lot of expenses, the government doesn't consider any of these things. It doesn't care if you're in debt. It just looks at your income and it looks at your savings. And so if you've done all the things that you were supposed to do and you've worked hard, you've saved, the government is not going to take pity on you. And so in that case, if your EFC is really high and you don't qualify for any financial aid from the government, well, you go after merit scholarships and you go after private scholarships. There's a whole other system. Now, here's the big problem. Regardless of which one of these three financial aid profiles you have, most families don't know their EFC number. They don't even know how to get it. Now, some people know that eventually, when you submit the FAFSA, when your kids are seniors in high school and every year, therefore, when they're in college, that you're kind of going to figure out what your EFC is. Some will figure it out when they actually get their financial aid awards from college, which actually happens sometime in the winter to spring of their senior year in high school, right? So let's just play this out really quickly. Most people that call us in panic is when their kids have gotten their acceptance letters from college, because usually within a week or two, they'll get their financial aid award letters. Parents open it up and they realize that, oh my God, they usually use a slightly different term, you can imagine. But they're like, oh my God, this is what the college costs. Like, we knew that, but they're not giving us a lot of financial aid. So we got to come up with the difference. And we can't do that. That's a lot of money. So we need help. That's when they call us. Well, by that point, it's too late because they don't really have the time to go back and do some of the things that they could have done, should have done, and would have done if they knew what to do so that they can actually get the money. So, here's what I always recommend to families, especially if you have a younger student, but even if you've got a senior, it's not too late for you. You still have a little bit of time. So, step number one is figure out your EFC. Hopefully, you can figure this out before you go on a record and share all of your finances with the FAFSA. I've shared with you a lot of different resources, absolutely free resources that you can use to calculate your EFC without having to share anything with the government. You can do this when your kids are in middle school or in just getting into high school or any way through high school. Figure out what your expected family contribution is going to be, because then that's going to help you figure out your financial aid profile. In other words, what path are you going to take in order to get the most amount of money that you qualify for? If you have a low EFC, remember you go after need based financial aid. That's your path. If you have a mid EFC and you need help coming up with that money, you're going to go after need and merit aid. And then if you have a high EFC and the government doesn't think you need help, well, then you need to look for merit aid scholarship, merit aid and private scholarships. That's where you're going to get the most amount of money. Don't spend a ton of time going after anything else that won't help. It won't work. So it's really, really important to figure out your financial aid profile as early as you can. And then you just need to know what steps you need to take, the things that you need to do to actually get all of the money that you qualify for from the path that you're following, from the financial aid profile or financial aid system that you will be using. I mean, it's kind of simple once you figure out what the formula is. So again, figure out your EFC. Number two, that's going to help you figure out what your financial aid profile is. And then number three, do the things to get the money from the financial aid system that you're going to be going after, that you are eligible for, that you qualify for the most. Now, I guess I'll mention a couple of things. Number one, the free resource that I like to use, and we have our own software that's a bit more, advanced and easier to use for us, and this is what we use with our clients. But if you're braving this on your own, or you're just kind of dipping your toe in the water, and you don't want to engage with a financial aid advisor, then you can do some of this stuff on your own. And the website that I like to use is the collegeboard.org. So if you go to collegeboard.org, in the upper right hand corner, I think there's a search bar. Type in EFC calculator. And one of the top results is going to be a free calculator that you can use to calculate your expected family contribution. You kind of model it. And the good thing about it is that you can save it. You can come back and you can play and adjust the numbers a little bit, because that's the beautiful thing about being prepared, is that the more you learn, the more time you have, actually, the more you can learn, and you become a much more aware and informed buyer. And when you do that, well, you can do some things within your finances and organize them in the more financially friendly way that's going to reduce and lower your expected family contribution. And if you've got the time, then you can do it. And you can use this website, the collegeboard.org EFC calculator, to model different scenarios to see how it's going to impact your expected family contribution and get that number as low as you can. And if you can do that, then not only will it tell you sort of how much money you're going to be expected to come up with, is going to tell you which financial aid system to go after to get the money that you need. And it's absolutely free, and you don't share anything with the government. It's private, which is awesome. So you can use it as many times as you want. Now, if you want some help, you can reach out. You can drop a question here. You can just email me. It's roman@pillar6college.com. And we have a complimentary 15-minute consult where I can help you with this as well. Or we have a strategy call where it's a paid hour that you're going to spend with us, but it's the best money you're ever going to spend, because for those families that want to do this quickly, and they don't want to waste a lot of time, but they also want to get the highest amount of value out of the time that they're spending, book the strategy call. And what that's going to do is tell you, number one, what your financial aid profile is. Number two, which financial aid system to go after. Number three, what things to actually do to get the most money, which colleges to look for that have the most amount of money for your financial aid profile. And then five, what forms that you're going to need to complete and when and how, so that you get the most amount of money out of the financial aid system to help you pay for college and making it affordable. So, for any of you who want some help, book your strategy call. You can just go ahead and drop in the comments strategy call, and we'll send you a link that you can book some time with me, and I'm going to help answer all of these questions. But again, if you decide to do this on your own, figure out which of the three financial aid systems you and your kids are going to get the most amount of money from, whether it's going to be need based financial aid, merit financial aid, or private scholarships. Because at the end, there's a lot of money. There's plenty of money to help every single family make college more affordable. You don't have to go in debt, and you don't have to put your kids in debt. There's just no need. The only reason to do that is if you've exhausted every single option and you've come up dry. But in all the years of experience of working with families, I have yet to find a family that has not been able, to find the money that they need. And the only time, they borrow is just a little bit. It's just to bridge some gap. But we'll have a separate conversation about loans at another financial aid Wednesdays, because there are so many different kind of loans. And if you have to borrow, make sure you borrow the best kind of money there is and use the best loans. So there's good debt, there's bad debt, and there's a bunch of debt in between. So if you're going to have to borrow, we'll teach you how to borrow in the smartest way possible. That's going to really help you bridge the gap instead of hurt you or your kids. So, anyways, if you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments. If you like this, if this is helpful, please hit like. This is going to help me know that this is helpful to you, and share it with some of your friends that have college bound kids, and hopefully they can also continue to learn and find money to help them pay for college. So, with that, I wish all of you best of luck. And if you've got any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you all next Wednesday. Thanks for watching. Take care.